Okay, so so just summarize what we have done and what we're going to do for this class. We have explained several important data for capital markets for finance accounting students. We explained the conference call. During the conference call, you can extract managers' discussion about anything, about the political risk, climate, carbon emission, a lot of stuff, even manager's personality. That's what the conference call. We also talk about 10K. 10K, we talk about item 1, item 1A, item 7, which you can find the product description, risk of the company, and about the free discussion about forward-looking information. We also talk about the item AK. Item AK, we discussed about how you get the contract, loan contract, supplying contract, every contract you get from AK. You can get all type of news. You can get the product news from the AK. So we talk about all different kind of data we available from the public resource. You can download, you can crawl, you can pass in. So you have all the data available we discussed. And we talk about, for each data, we talk about 3 things. The first thing is what's the structure of the data? Like I told you guys, you need to understand the structure of the data and you can pass it. Some students ask me how exactly we can pass all the unstructured data to structured. So you have to understand the structure. You have to understand the hidden pattern of the data in order to able to pass the data. So we talk about the structure of the data and the contents of the data. That's the first thing we talk about for each data. We also talk about the use of the data. Like I said, a conference call can measure managerial personality. AK can manage product competition. 10K can manage product competition. AK can get the contract to analyze the efficiency of the transaction. So we had talked about so many examples. We are not going to repeat here. You guys can see the previous lectures about the structure of the data, use of each data. And we also talk about the methodology of analyzing this data, or we talk about the bag of words approach versus machine learning. And you guys see what bag of words can do, what keyword search can do, what machine learning can do. So overall, for each data, we talk about the 3 things: the structure, contents of the data, the first thing. Second thing, the use of the data. The third thing is the methodology of the data, of using the data. So we are going to continue that logic for today's lecture as well. And also for you guys presentation, I encourage you guys to that too. For the idea you want to use the data, I want to get a new idea using the data. So I said I can use data to manage your personality. I can use the data to manage your contract efficiency. Can you use the data we discussed in the class to use some new use to analyze the data for investors and managers? That's what I encourage you guys to think. Even you guys use new data, it's fine with me. It's fine with me. So this is about the previous literature lectures. So today we're going to talk about the several new data. We're going to talk about survey data. We're going to talk about the data about the institutional investors. We're going to talk about the CSR data, CSR reports. We're talking about the proxy statement. We're going to talk about IPO form S1. We're going to talk about the regulatory disclosures, common letters. So I'm going to talk about these all kinds of data set. Again, in 3 ways. The first way is structure of the data. Another way is how to use the data. Regarding on the methodology, you guys have read my video on the Bilibili, right? The video on the Bilibili summarized a lot of technology on machine learning and also difference between the keyword search and the machine learning. So basically on the Bilibili video you guys watched already talk about how exactly what the machine learning can do, what the keyword search can do. So I'm not going to repeat that part. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce the structure and the contents of each data. That's number 1 important thing for each data. Number 2 is how to use the data. What's the data used for? I'm going to talk about 2 things for you. And once you're familiar with each of the data set, like I said in the class, when you get a job, in the industry, when your boss says, hey, Joe, I want you guys to do some analysis for me. Can you figure out how exactly is our competitors' carbon emission? I'm worried about the carbon emission of the company, but I'm more worried about my competitors' carbon emission. Can you get some analysis about the carbon emission about my competitors? If Joe, your boss, tell me to do some data analytics for him, or for her, I'm sorry, for her or for him, and I want Joe to be able to immediately think, oh, from Professor Charles' class, I know the way to do it. I need to dig into the CSR report. I need to get the report out, and from the report, I can exactly see how this firm have done for the carbon emission, and I can, using the textual analysis, to get the competitors' carbon emission plan, and I can report to my boss. So this is the way. This is by the end of the lecture, I want you guys I'm not just talking about Joe, even for Jingyi, any boss want Jingyi to do some analytics, Jingyi can immediately know from Professor Charles' class. There's some data I talk about, and I also talk about the use of the data. So Jingyi can go to the data and process the data and get the pattern and get insight for the boss, and so Jingyi can get promotion, keep the job, and moving on her career. So that's what I want you guys to know about these 5 data, the survey data and the CSR report and everything. Let's go over the data one by one. But like I always said, for each beginning of the class, I want to give you guys a recap of what we have done before, and I give you guys the plan for today. Okay, so we have a lot of contents for today. I'm going to just I'm going to go over one by one, and hope you guys can get an idea for each data. So let's go to the first one, survey data. Survey data is very important. Survey data is very important data source right now. Become very popular in the recent 2 to 3 years. It was not popular before because the cost of doing survey, but it's very popular recently because the powerful of this information. So let me explain you what kind of survey data I was talking about, and I will go over the rest of stuff. Anyway, we'll go over survey data, analytics of survey data. We're going to be talking about analytics of institutional investors. We're talking about analytics of CSR. We're going to talking about analytics of corporate governance. We're going to talk about analytics of IPO and analytics of regulation. So these are the 6 analytics we're going to talk about today. So let's look at the survey data first. So survey data, what is exactly it's a survey data, and so survey data is when you want some information, you kind of send questions to firms. So firms can answer the questions for you, and you can collect information for your question. This is a little different from the data source we talked about before, right? It's a little bit different from data source we talked about before. Regarding the data, we talk about 10K, 8K, and all these data, they are passive, right? Basically, the information is already there. You want to extract the information from the given information for your own use. It's more of a passive approach. But survey data is not a passive approach, it's a proactive approach. What do you mean by proactive approach? I want some information. And I design the questions for my questions. And I send to the CEOs, to the firm employees. They answer the questions, and I get the information I want. So you guys see the difference between the 2 approach. All the data source I was talking about is you have to get what you want from the data you have. But for the survey data, is you create the data for your own use. So basically, you create all your data for your own use. So that's why we have a two different definition for this. For the data already we have, we call this archival data or secondary data. Okay, this is terminology we have. Archival data or secondary data. We have a terminology for that. For the data you actually proactively created, we call it the primary data. Primary data. Yeah. So when people say primary data and archival data, you can see the difference. Archival data or secondary data means the data is already there, the 10K, 8K conference call. You use the data to extract the information you want. That's called archival data and the archival data and the secondary data. And for the primary data, it's data you created. You send a survey to the CEOs, and you do some experiments. You actually create the data sets for your own needs. This is primary data. Okay, so survey belongs to primary data set, and it becomes very popular with recent years. And you guys can see the pros and the cons of primary data and the secondary data. The secondary data is already there. It's easy to access. It's low cost to access the data. But for primary data, you have to get the questions ready. You have to send the questions to CEOs. And some CEO may respond, some CEO may not respond. So you have a selection issues. If only 1% of people respond, then you have some selection issues there. But the advantage is for primary data, you get what you want, right? You get what exactly you want. For the secondary data, you have to figure out how to use the data for your own purpose. So you can see that what's the pros and the cons of secondary data and the primary data. The secondary data is easy to access, but you have to figure out how to use it. For primary data, you know exactly how to use it because you create it. But the problem is the cost of design the questions and the cost of have people answering it and the selection issue from the respondents. So that's the primary data and the secondary data pros and cons difference. So let's look at the cases here. One example here. So the PwC sent the survey data to the CEOs to ask several questions. You guys can see the questions. The PwC care about what? Care about the economic growth in the next 12 months. That's one question. They care about what? Care about the firm's revenue growth, about the next to 12 months. So about economics, about the firm's revenue growth. And the PwC care about the risk about the growth, okay? And also the PwC want to know about their plan. Climate change, does climate change affects them? They care about that. Also, PwC want to know the long-term investment in the next 3 years about how do they respond to COVID-19. So and the third one is what's the geographic location, and how does the geography affects your fact, right? That's a 6 questions out there. So so what I want to tell you guys is for survey, it's a different story from the 10K, 8K, and everything we talk about, because the number one is you have to create your questions. You have to create your questions. For example, if you guys present a new idea, the idea must need some data, right? You don't have the data, so you can create the data on your own. So for example, how about we going back to our earlier case? So we talk about the competition, right? We keep out competition. So we use the 10K. We use the 10K to manage firms' product competition. You guys remember the example, right? That's how we use the secondary data to do the case. How to use the primary data to do so? Then what you do is you have to design the questions. You have to design saying, what's your product? look like, right? What's your product market share? How you are going to change your product in the future? What kind of threat you are facing from the competitors regarding the product competition? You have to design the questions in a very sophisticated, detailed way in order to measure the product competition. So what I'm saying is you can measure product competition from the 10K, the item 1 we discussed in the class. You can also design the survey questions and you send it to CEOs, employees, and you have to design the question in a very sophisticated way. So once the people answer the questions, you can get the idea of how exactly what's the product competition the firm is facing from the CEO or employees questions. So that's what I'm trying to say. You can measure product competition either from the secondary data or the primary data. Either way is fine with me, but you guys be aware of the pros and the cons we just discussed. And then after you have done that, so that's the number 1. You design the questions. Okay, see here what PwC care about. PwC doesn't care about the product competition, but PwC care about the economic growth, the firm growth, the COVID-19 impact, the potential risk, and the geographic factors. That's what PwC care. So this is the answer from the different firms aggregated at the year level. So you can see that the different people have different views. In 2012, 48% of people believe there's a huge growth. And in 2013, there's a downgrade. And in 2014, only there's a improve the decline. So the more and more people believe from 2012 2014, more and more people believe there will be good economic growth and the variation among the years. So this is another question you guys need to do in the data analytics visualization. So for this class, I didn't actually talk too much about the visualization, but the visualization is another very important skill you need to have when you get a job. So in this data, we talk about textual analysis, we talk about using textual predictor returns, measure competitions, together carbon emissions. We talk about all this using the textual to measure different variables for firms. Besides measurement, besides prediction, there's a very important component for data analytics, which is visualization. So this is a very simple way for visualization. You can see that from 2012 to 2021, how people believe, how CEOs believe changes over time regarding the economic growth. This is a very simple way for visualization. Okay, very simple visualization. This is something you guys need to do as well. Not for this class, I mean for your future job. This is very important skills you need to do. And another thing is, do you guys remember for AK 10K, there's one important step is we have to convert unstructured AK 10K to structured format. You guys remember that, right? For the survey data is the same. When the CEOs give you the solutions, give you the comments, it's unstructured data. It's just textual data. It's just an answer to your question. Sometimes you can have multiple choice questions. Sometimes it's essay. If it's an essay, it's unstructured data. If it's a multiple choice, it's more structured, right? It's more structured. So when you get the unstructured data, you can convert the unstructured data to structured data. I'm sure you guys have done that already. The conference call, you guys convert unstructured conference call to structured conference call. You guys done that. Fantastic. For AK, you guys have some challenges, but you guys are doing that in the right way, in the right direction, right? In the right direction. So you can convert unstructured AK to structured AK. So you guys are doing that, which is good. In the future, when you get doing the job, you guys, when you do the survey, you have to do the same thing. You have to convert the unstructured survey to structured data, and you can do the analytics. How to make the unstructured survey to structured? When you design it, you have to put some effort, right? When you design it, you're trying to make data easier for you to process. Because the difference between the survey and 10K is whatever you have. You have no way to change the data structure. But for survey data, you designed it. You designed it. So besides the questions you put in the survey data, you can also design the structure of the survey to make it easier for you to convert unstructured survey to structured. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Okay, so this is when you design survey data, you need to pay attention to how to design the important questions, and also how to make you easier to convert the unstructured data to structured. So this is the two things about the survey data. And then third thing is visualization. How to do the visualization to make people immediately understand what's the answer from the survey. Okay, that's the third thing. That's the third thing. So basically, I have summarized that in the point here. You guys can see in the first slides how to design good questions. How to design good questions for the survey, and how to do the make the structured data, unstructured data to structured, how to do visualization, and also I want to see the selection issue. Yeah, the third thing is the response issue, the selection issue about responses, because not everyone responds. So for example, I sent you guys the survey for the whole class. Only 2 people answered me. What if only 2 good people answered? Then something is wrong. That the survey doesn't represent the whole class, just represent the good students, right? Or what if only junior students answered me? Then the answer only represent the junior answers. I don't have. I want to know the whole class answer, including junior and the sophomore. So there's a big selection issue on the survey data. So that's the 4 points you guys to pay attention to for the survey data. How to design important questions, and how to make the data structured when you design it. How to do the visualization, how to handle the selection issue from the responses. So that's the four points I want you guys to keep in mind. Okay, so you can see the first question, that's the visualization for the answer, visualization of the answer for the first question, and also how confident your organizations to the next 12 months. And it's the same thing, right? Same thing. It's a different way of visualize the answers. You guys can learn from that. And also, how concerned you about the threats to your organization, and how exactly potential threats. So you see that this is a difference. So here, the answer is yes or no, right? Yes or no. So you can easily get a percentage. And here, the answer is like a percentage. So you can visualize percentage. So for here, the answer is what? Answer is different topics. So you can get the topics out. That's how exactly what I'm saying. How to make the structured, unstructured data structured. The first one answer, because the first one answer is yes and no. So you can get a percentage to summarize, and yes and no. You can get, oh, 44 is yes. 7 is no, 49 is okay, neutral, right? So this is the easy to get a percentage for the answer. But for this answer, this is a percentage, so you can get a continuous variable for the percentage. You can get the analyzed answer. But for this answer, it's by topics. It's by there's overregulation, trade conflicts. So you have so this one is open-end asset, right? For open-end asset, what you can do is do a topic. You can get the topics out. So you can see for this one, this is the topics, most concerned topic. This one is most concerned topic. So this is exactly what I'm saying, how you can make an unstructured data structured based on the structure of the answer, based on the structure of the answer. And also you can see the climate change factor into. So this is, you can see the people's answer. You structuralize that into visual. And also you can see the how you are going to improve your digital improvement. When you design the question, when you design the question, you can give them choice, like a digital transformation and blah blah. You can give them options, right? You can give them options. When you give them the options, then you can make it easier for you to analyze the data, right? And also you can give them some other. You can. What if the options you give them is not comprehensive? What if they want to answer something which is not included from the list here? You can ask them to include some topic you did not include it here, so you can have both. So my point is, you can give some suggested topics here, so they can answer yes and no. You can also give them some open-end essays to have them to answer some topics you didn't include it here, so they can give you more information. So this is exactly what I'm saying. When you design a survey, you have to make it very thoughtful. You have to give them something you thought about, so they can answer yes and no. By answer yes and no, it's easier for you to process. You also can give them some open-end essays. They can give you something you didn't think about, and that information give you new information about the data. Okay, this is about the questions, and also about, you see, which regions you think about, which three regions and countries. You know how important is US and China. Most of people, the different CEOs care about different. Chinese CEOs care about Japan, German, US, France, Australia. The US CEO care about China, UK, German, and Canada. So you can see that different factors affects CEO's mind. What's in CEO's mind? So so to summarize, what's the survey about? Let me just still go over for the 4 points. First, survey is a primary data. You create your own data for your own needs, different from the secondary or cover data we talked about before. So you have to design your own questions. That's number 1 rule. Number 2 rule is, when you design the questions, you want to make it easier for you to make unstructured data structured. The example we talk about is, you can give some preset topic for them, so they can answer yes and no. You can also give them open-end essays, so they can answer. They can give you some topics you didn't think about in the design. So by giving them pre-designed topics, it's easier for you to analyze the data. By giving them open essays, they can give you new topics you didn't think of. Okay, and the third thing is how to visualize these answers. Different structure of answer have different way to visualize. You can see that for yes and no, we have a way to visualize. For multiple choice questions, we have a different way to visualize. For continuous variable, we have different way to visualize. The fourth thing is how to handle a selection issue, like if there's if just a small group answer it, you have to handle whether the answer represent the whole group or just represent that small group. This is something you can think of. So in summary, that's the 4 important things about survey data: design the question, design the structures, visualize the answer, and handle the selection issues. So and I said this has become very, very popular in recent years. I just talked to several industry firms and the university, like a university. A lot of university and the industry people, they are doing survey to trying to get information from CEOs, employees, to get their opinions about many things. They got their opinions about the analysts. They got opinions about the market, the economics, the opinions about the firm future growth. So this is very important methodology right now, getting more and more popular to get your answer. So I'm not saying the 10K, 8K is not popular. It's good resource, but the survey data, the primary survey data, the field experiment is become much more popular in recent years. So I want you guys to be aware of that. This is one way you can get the data, and then you can do the data analytics based on the data. So let me